had once envisioned a future where we would be traveling into the depths of outer space, exploring all kinds of strange and exotic life forms, traveling galaxy to galaxy faster than the speed of light, expanding onto an infinite horizon. However, we now know that future is a little more distant than we would have hoped. Instead, rather than this outward expansion that we once envisioned, we're moving more towards an inward transcension of knowledge and understanding of what we are made of. But as our ability to understand and control these properties grows, we will be faced with some equally profound questions. As the line between man and machine continues to grow narrower and narrower, and maybe more importantly, the line between individual self and a larger system continues to grow smaller and smaller and smaller at an increasingly rapid rate. We will be forced to confront these very profound questions much sooner than we would have thought. History. When we look at history, we see that a single technological advancement can have drastic social, intellectual, and economic changes for all of humanity. The invention of the movable type printing press by Johannes Gutenberg in around 1439 sparked an intellectual revolution. Suddenly, ideas could be sent out around the world at a rate that was previously incomprehensible. With the rapid advancements in IT, or information technologies, we see a similar revolution that is having an even more profound impact on humanity. In a 1965 paper, Intel co-founder Gordon Moore stated that there is a long-term trend in the history of computing software whereby the number of transistors that can be placed inexpensively on an integrated circuit doubles every 2 years. His observation is then called Moore's Law. So when we look at this, we see that the amount of transistors, the processing power of a computer chip doubles every 18 months. We now see these transistors meeting limits of miniaturization on an atomic scale as they get smaller and smaller and smaller at an exponential rate. As this trend continues, information processing will become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper until it will essentially become free. The almost unlimited integration and power of integrated computing will lead to some drastic changes in the availability and distribution of resources. Resources will be able to be distributed at a much more efficient rate.
And as barriers to entry get smaller and smaller, we will reach the state of almost perfect competition. In the state of perfect competition, there are little to no barriers to entry into the marketplace, and information is essentially free. Anyone, anywhere can start a business, can distribute resources, can get the resources and the software and the needs to create their own company. Prices reach an optimal, efficient rate, and suddenly you have the system where, the self-regulating system, where everything's become so efficient and so automated. We will enter into an age of abundance. Resources will be available and cheap and affordable and accessible by all. There is no longer a need for these governments and institutions to distribute and work out this non-availability of resources, because it will be this self-regulating system.
We are and will continue to be able to augment more and more parts of our biological selves with non-biological components. Replacing biological components with non-biological components in our bodies may seem like science fiction horror, but it's already occurring. As we see an improvement in heart transplants and artificial body parts, artificial limbs, and prosthetic technology, we're already doing it. However, it's going to become more and more and more integrated into our systems, and will change the face of medicine as we know it. Okay, now imagine I can take a probe and I can put it in my bloodstream, and it will monitor all of my bodily systems and all of my functions, and I'll be able to accurately see this information in real time. This accurate, honest, real-time information explaining my heart rate, my vital signs, my levels of different vitamins and minerals, and all the essential nutrients that I need to function well. If I have a deficiency on the system, I'll be able to see it and I'll be able to correct it. Imagine your body running at optimal efficiency. Now say we took this readout and had it connected up to an automated system that would automatically regulate and distribute the proper amount of these nutrients directly in our body without us ever having to notice. An auto-correcting, auto-fixing, auto-fluctuating system helping our bodies run faster, stronger, more efficient, healthier than ever before. Also, imagine this information being beamed up wirelessly on a huge network. Suddenly, we can map out and monitor all of the world's health problems, health concerns, and we can track and have accurate, up-to-date statistics, real-time statistics of the world, of the people and the health of the entire world, the entire planet. And doctors will have that tool at their disposal. Doctors will be able to find new cures and techniques to treat medical conditions. We will know how to distribute medical supplies, immunizations in a more efficient, streamlined way, so that we can save, protect the health of more and more and more people. However, let's take this a step further. Doctors are currently working on a procedure called deep brain stimulation. It's a process in which doctors implant electrodes directly into the human brain. It can be used to treat Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. It can be used to stimulate misfiring, misactuating neurons in the brain. It can also be used to correct different areas of the brain, for example, mood and emotion. Some patients have undergone a process where these
Probes have been implanted in the emotional centers of the brain. These electrodes can alter the emotional signals in the brain, transforming this depression into joy. Imagine never having to be sad again. Now that's a little scary. Suddenly, you're never sick. You're never sad. Think about that. Never sick, never sad. It's disturbing. You know? And that leads to all kinds of deeper problems, deeper questions. What's the point of existing if you have no feelings? Without the bad, is there any good? Without the good, is there any bad? Does the removal of free will change everything? If you look at the species as a whole, we've always been reliant on one another. But if you look at the globe as a whole, you see that we're becoming more and more and more and more dependent and more interconnected. The systems are getting more and more complex that connect us. At what point do we stop being individuals and start being a larger organism? Interconnected and communicating through these information networks. At what point do I, as an individual, stop being me and start being just a cell in a larger system? To explain this process of transcension, the word singularity is often used. A singularity in physics is known as this unexplainable moment in the Big Bang, but right the moment when things happen, it's this unexplainable, undefined moment. But the word singularity has been adopted by other fields as a way to explain ideas like robots becoming self-aware and intelligent, or the moment when we as a species stop being individuals and start and transcend this higher state of consciousness where we're all so interconnected that we are simply one organism. So when you hear the word singularity, they're talking about the moment when machines, wake up and realize that they are alive, or the moment when we are so interconnected with our machines and with each other that we stop being individuals and start being a larger system. It's usually used one of the two ways. In this debate over transforming into a larger, more complex system, there are two camps of people. There are the people who strongly oppose it and the people that strongly embrace it. On one end, we have people who live off the grid, who have found it's easier to live off the grid completely, to rely on no one. They've embraced this lifestyle of self-reliance and self-dependency. However, they resist the technology because they are afraid of it. However, on this other camp, we have these people like Jason Silva or Ray Kurzweil, who are these futurists who are embracing it as their salvation, who want it to happen, who are praying each and every day that it happens within their lifetime so that they can be a part of it, so that they can transcend with the rest of humanity into this larger system. If you look at this with more of an objective view, you see that the one camp is resisting it out of fear of change. However, the other camp is embracing it as a form of salvation. In Ernest Becker's book, The Denial of Death, he talks about how we are driven by a fear of our own mortality. And most of our life is spent looking for coping mechanisms to avoid that reality of our mortality. We look for religion. We look for love as salvation. We look at creating things that will last beyond ourselves, so that a piece of us exists eternally. Now, these futurists often embrace this book and talk about how their theory is somehow above this process, is somehow the answer to this coping mechanism, how it's the future. It's what's supposed to happen, it's evolution. It's where we're supposed to go. But if you look at them in the same context as you look at religion and love and this desire to create things that last past ourselves, you see that they are clinging even tighter than the previous three to this fear of mortality. You know? Because they are so afraid of dying. They are looking for a way to exist eternally in a larger system, and they would sacrifice themselves as individuals to do so because they are so afraid of dying. These futurists are looking at the singularity with almost a cult-like following. They're either looking as it as a way of salvation or a way of immortality, a way of becoming God, becoming the supreme, powerful being, being able to change anything and everything they want. They are either power-hungry or afraid or delusional. These ideas are gaining ground. They're gaining ground. They're gaining traction. And more people are embracing them as their salvation. So you need to realize you will be faced with people who are accepting these ideas, who are embracing these ideas, as well as who are this other group of people who are completely rejecting these tools and these technologies and this change because they're afraid of change. Life is not about the extremes. When you look at both sides, you realize there is much to be said about moderation, goodwill, and moderation. When we embrace things in moderation, we realize that we have control over these things, and they do not control us. Now, I'm not supporting or opposing either side of this. All I want is you as a viewer to be conscious of this change that is happening around you. Because if you're not conscious about it, you will have no control over it. You need to be conscious and aware of what is happening so that you can make an informed and educated decision about yourself, about how you as an individual will move forward in history. It won't be a deliberate, conscious decision. It'll be a slow and gradual process.